Hello flight simmers, welcome back to the TJ Pilot channel. I hope all of you have spent a great holiday season, and with that we are back to a full flight video in Prepare P3D. And as you can see, I have a bit of a surprise for you in store today. We are finally having the Aerosoft A330 in a full flight video. And I can tell you up front, it's a great aircraft, it's very fun to fly, and it has nice textures all over it. So you can be looking forward to a nice full flight video. As you can see, the weather, the rain is sort of on and off. That seems to be a small bug of the active sky weather engine, but let's not bother with that too much. Other than that, weather does not look too great here in Zurich, and I hope it will be much better than that down at Miami. Catering has just been finished. I have not set up anything yet in the cockpit. We are in cold and dark mode since the aircraft hasn't been operated for the last 2 days. So they are very likely starting from a cold and dark cockpit in real life. And here, before we head into the cockpit, I want to show you a little bit of the PBR effects we have on this aircraft. So here you can see it on the wing, and also from the outside view we can make out some slight PBR effects there on the wing. There are some, should definitely get more when we have some sunlight on the aircraft. And yeah, it's a very neat aircraft, as already mentioned, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. So before we head into the cockpit, let's head off with the flight plan. So today we are operating SWISS 66 on the 27th of December from Zurich down to Miami in the A330. Today we are in the HBJHK registry. Cost index today will be 10, average wind 275 at 52, so quite some headwinds on the cruise. Thus we have a flight time of 10 hours and 42 minutes, so quite a long flight for the A330 actually. Block fuel of 72 tons. Zero fuel weight of 157. Swiss has not a huge amount of seats in this aircraft. That's why zero fuel weight is rather low. However, this figure might change. We will actually be using the load agent of the Airbus, so we will see what we get there. And a takeoff weight of almost 230 tons, so actually quite close to max takeoff weight. Cruise levels, of course, various step climb in here. We will handle those during the cruise. Other than that, yeah, we only have 230 packs on board, which is almost the full capacity of the Swiss configuration, and cargo of 6 tons. So yeah, pretty decent in that sense. And with that, let's head into the cockpit and get started. Okay, so here we are, as already said, cold and dark. Here we can see some more PBR effects. Here you can see the textures. It's sort of a used look on here, so the textures of this aircraft are just amazing, I have to say. Okay, so first things first, I will put on the external power, put the nav lights on, and everything else I will leave for the moment. And let's head over to the third MCDU. So now in the small buses we only had left and right MCDU, and now we have the third one, which is pretty convenient for all this simulator operating stuff. And what we will do, first we will be using the checklist as well as the co-pilot function today, just for the sake of having neat procedures, and everything should be in place for this video. So I will get started with that. That should pretty much run on its own.
Preparation checklist.
In terms of load, so 230 packs and 6 tons, and that will give us a zero fuel of 152.7.
Checked.
So that's even 5 tons lower than we had from SimBrief, but that's fine. And fuel, we will have 72.345, although that wouldn't go in there actually. So 72.35. Perfect.
Checked.
Okay, so what I will do, I will ask for refueling.
Check
Catering is
position.
completed already.
Speed brake lever.
Checked retracted.
And then
Parking
with
brake.
that, okay, parking brake, we have to set it here manually. And with that,
Set
I want
on.
to also ask for boarding to save some time
Brake
later
pressure.
on.
Checked.
Okay, so we will actually
Oxygen crew supply.
Checked.
have a trim of up 4.5. I'm not
Voice
sure if
recorder.
that's correct.
Set on.
Ground proximity warning system.
Okay, I quickly went to the load agent, to the external load
Flight
agent,
control
and
system.
update the figures accordingly, and we got a trim of 1.8 up. So that's
Adheres.
that should be more accurate than before. And yeah, while the
Set to
checklist
nav.
is running, now the years have been set to
Navigation
nav.
lights.
So we still need some time to wait for the IRSS2 line. We can confirm that we have 230 packs on board. Jetways are connected. This is the Aerosoft Zurich professional scenery, and it does not have solely jetways, but regular jetways, so we only can connect that one. The rain still seems to be on and off, which is a little bit annoying, I have to say. But yeah, no worries.
Emergency lights.
Checked and armed.
Okay, I will also hit the B key
Anti-ice.
just to align
Off.
the altimeters to the local one,
Probe window heat.
1023. That's
Auto.
fine.
Air condition.
Checked.
Okay, and
Electric
now
panel.
also in the
Checked.
A330, we do have
Fuel pumps.
the electronic flight bag, which,
Set
to be
on.
quite honest, I have done a couple of flights with this
Hydraulics.
aircraft, and I
Is
haven't
checked.
used it at all because it's not yet
Engine fire test.
configured for
Number one.
Navigraph Charts.
2.
That's why I can't use the charts in here.
Checked.
Flows are anyway handled by the co-pilot.
Ventilation panel.
Is
And
checked.
then these calculations, flight package,
Anti-skid.
that's,
On.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't been using it
Radio
a lot.
management panel.
In documentation, so
Set
what we
on.
can do, we can put the Simpri flight plan in
Weather
here.
radar. Gain. Mode.
Although that's super hard to see right now, and
Checked.
that's Aerosoft says it's due to the HDR. If it's turned on, then
Idle.
of course this one is not working as it
Engine
should be,
mode
and I
selector.
totally get the point.
Check
But still,
normal.
I feel like other developers
ATC.
can
Mode.
make it work quite
Altitude
nicely
reporting.
without HDR problems. So I hope
Checked.
they will get
TCAS.
that fixed soon.
Checked standby.
And then at links, yeah, we have a couple of
Oxygen
links to sky vectors to windy, which is quite nice to have a look at the winds. So if we get it right, let's see
Checked.
what our cruise winds will be
Flight director.
at
On.
3.4.
Checklist complete.
Okay, 3.4. So we can see that there's wind from the north over Europe. So yeah, I feel like the windy link that's quite useful to have a look at the winds. But other than that, to be honest, I haven't used it a lot. However, let's get over to the FMC. So I will put that to the fuel prediction page. And here we can see we have, of course, the Rolls-Royce Trent engines. That's the only one that are modeled at this point in time. And we will be going from LSZH over to KMIA. And I've loaded the flight plan in the folder, so we can load it straight in here. Flight number SWR66. Cost index was 10 if I'm not mistaken, and initial cruise 340. Alternate, I haven't checked actually. We got KMCO, which is it Orlando? I think it's Orlando. Should be okay. IRSs we can align on reference, that's fine. wind. We can get that from active sky. That's the same way as the old buses have functioned, or I should rather say the small Airbuses from Aerosoft. Okay, let's make sure this one is correct. Zero fuel weight of 152.7 with a center of gravity of 32.4 and a plug fuel of, yeah, that's a bit old one, that's not right. We will have 72.3, that goes in there. Okay, right now it says 15 tons of fuel remaining upon arrival. That's of course a lot. And I will actually, that's too much actually to land. And I will dial that down a bit. So let's see where we'll get at 65 tons. Dialed 65 in here. 8.7, oops. And we got a reserve time of 45 minutes actually. Let's see if we can change that in here. Okay, that's fine. So now here we can read that our minimum fuel at destination should be 6.5 and we got 8.7. So we got about 2 tons more than actually required, and that should be fine for our flight, I guess. Okay, in terms of routing, let's have a quick look at the weather here in Zurich. Okay, we got variable winds 170 to 230, so we will likely be using runway 16 for departure. And having a quick look at the charts, so we will be flying the Vebit 3 Sierra departure, so out of runway 16 towards the south, and then we will do left-hand turn, circle around the airport and actually fly over the airport until we get to waypoint Brago, and then later on to Vebit. We got some altitude restrictions in there, which should not be an issue, and we will actually dial that in. So 16 for departure, Vebit 3 Sierra, insert, yeah, there we got Brago and then Vebit. I can close that, and let's see if we can see it on here. It's of course rather small down here, but we can see the circle, and then we fly off to the left, and we will start the left-hand turn once we are at altitude 2,000 feet, which is not too high since we are already at 1.4. So just a brief climb, and then we can start the left-hand turn. Okay, so that's set for the departure. Let's once again see the load page. Will be a flap 1 departure with up 1.8, and that will give us a flex temp of 42 degrees. I'm not going to mess around with that. That should be fine. And regarding the trim, I've noticed that during the setup of the co-pilot, the trim is set to some very different level, which is actually the correct level for takeoff. So I'm not sure if they fixed it now in the recent update, we will see. But if they set it to something different than 1.8, then I'm going to leave it as it is, and that should be fine. Okay, in terms of altitude, we can dial that to 340 and go to manage node. Let's actually see what our cruise 34, optimum 355, and then recommended 370 or 369 to be accurate. So we will likely climb straight to 360. But yeah, we will deal with that after departure. Okay, now we are actually all set up in the cockpit. Seems like boarding is going on, but baggage has not been loaded yet. I'm not sure if refueling has completed. No, it's still running. Okay, that will take a little bit of time here, so I will actually get back to you once the boarding is fully completed. Okay, so boarding is finally completed. That took some time actually, but never mind. So next thing we will do, we will close some doors, and I will also manually operate with Swiss, of course. I will manually operate the jetway. Okay, now it's detaching, that's fine. And that should actually trigger, once it's closed, it should trigger the next steps in the checklists. And we can have a look at the load sheet that's now stored here. So, zero fuel weight 152.6, takeoff weight 217.6,
Before start
230
checklist.
packs, and yeah, takeoff trim 1.8. Let's see if that's correct, as already mentioned.
Windows and doors.
I will get rid of
Closed
that.
and locked.
That's fine. I should also set up a little bit of cockpit
APU.
lighting actually,
Set on.
since it's quite dark outside, so that's much
APU
better.
lead.
And on the overhead it's set. So that's fine, yeah. Now we have to wait for the APU to fire up. There's a Delta A330 taxiing. In terms of taxi, it should be quite straightforward. So runway 16, that's down there. And we will simply get a pushback with the tail to the right, then taxi down on what I believe is taxiway Charlie. Then take a right turn on taxiway Echo, and that will lead us straight down to runway 16. So nothing too complicated. Now we can hear that the APU is fired up.
Cabin signs.
On and auto.
Thrust
Still a little
limiter.
bit dark in here, but I don't like the floodlight in here too much, so I leave it off.
On.
Bearer reference.
Set. 1024.
Okay, if you want to use
102.
the Aerosoft aircrafts with GSX, make sure to go to Optional and Ground Services and put
Beacon
GSX
lights.
service to on.
Set
Otherwise,
on.
it's sort of messed up the entire procedure.
ATC.
Auto.
Checklist complete.
Okay, and now I'm not sure if the pushback is starting. It should be. Okay, now we can see the tug coming in. Okay. Now these are also some very nice PBR effects here. Although the sun is actually not out, I believe. But yeah. So I don't know why this is happening, but it looks nice.
Locking gear.
Can also confirm our weights down here, so cross weight of 217 tons.
Departure check completed.
On
Bypass
here
pin
was
inserted. Release parking brakes.
217.7. Nah, that's in line now. That's good. Okay, so we can release the parking brakes.
Parking brakes released.
Tail goes to the right.
Commencing push. Due to icing conditions, please stand by for engine start until push completed and brake set.
Okay, we have to wait with the engine start for a little bit. Now this aircraft also has the nice windmill effects in the engines, which most of the high quality Addons aircraft have at this point. It looks very nice. And also with the A330, they have introduced a new wing flex. So that's why I've set up this wing view mode already. So during departure and also during cruise, maybe we can see the wing flex, which looks very realistic. They've done a very good job on that one. And I really hope they are going to transfer it over to the A320 series. But I'm not sure if they will do that or if that's actually possible. Yeah, we have to wait with the engine start until pushback is completed. See how the wipers look. It's quite nice, but we actually don't need it, since in P3D the rain does not really affect the view out of the cockpit too much.
Set parking brakes.
Okay, setting parking brakes.
Waiting your confirmation for good engine start.
Okay, now we can go ahead, so I will put that to start and start engine number 2.
Starting.
There's the Turkish Airlines lining up for departure in the background. That's on runway 28. So when we are lining up on runway 16, we actually should make sure that there's no traffic on runway 28. That would be bad. And the engine sounds are actually also very neatly modeled. They also integrated this kind of howling effect which the Trent engine has. I'm not very sure at what logic we will hear it, but maybe we can hear it once we start taxiing. And there is just a little bit we could hear it. So very nice effects. Okay, engine 2 should be stabilized at this point in time.
Number 1.
And there's a British Airways, hopefully not taxiing straight through us. It looks like it's waiting for us, and I don't want to hit it during taxi, so I will quickly turn down air traffic density, and that usually does the trick, and that's fine. Okay, that should be stabilized. I will confirm that to GSX. And I forgot to start the block time actually. I will put the checklist page up here to see what's going on. We quickly have to wait for the after takeoff check, after start checklist. Sorry.
After start checklist.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
Engine mode selector.
Set.
APU bleed.
Set off.
APU master.
Set off.
Ground spoilers.
Set.
Rudder trim.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
Okay, let's see where they are putting the trim now.
Set.
Okay, 1.8. So they actually have seemed to fix it in the latest update.
Flaps 1.
See how the flaps are coming down. Okay, I've quickly restarted Active Sky, hoping that it's not doing this rain on and off thing anymore, but I'm not sure if that helps after all. And now I've actually lost track of the... we are in the flight controls, okay.
Full left. Full right. Neutral. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Okay, that's
Check.
done.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Okay, but now the rain actually seems to be more stable,
Cam status.
so it should have fixed
Checked.
it.
ECAM door page.
Checked.
Got some sunlight in here and I really wonder where it's coming from.
Hand signal.
Received.
Checklist complete.
Okay, so I will release the parking brakes, and in a very light configuration this aircraft would start taxiing in idle mode, but I don't think we will be doing so today. So I will apply a bit of thrust here. There we can hear the howling sound. And off we go. Only does that on the very low revs, not so much on when it's running on high power.
Taxiing checklist.
Exterior lights.
Set on.
Brake check.
I will just
Brake
Pedal
check.
press.
touch the brakes a little bit and that will do it.
Checked.
Auto brakes.
Max.
Takeoff data.
Reviewed.
FCU.
In general, I've noticed that
Checked.
the checklists in this aircraft are running a little bit slower than they did in the narrow
Checked.
body Airbuses,
Check.
but that's
Weather
fine.
radar. Power supply.
Okay, so next turn to the right is ours,
and
making
set.
sure there's no traffic in our way.
TO config.
Set.
Checklist complete.
Let's slow down a bit. Now we have to remember we are in a big aircraft, so turning is not as easy as it was on the small buses, of course. But that was not too bad. Okay, and I will meet you down at the runway. Okay, now we are almost there. I will quickly get started with the before takeoff checklist.
Flight attendants, seats for takeoff. Before takeoff
And then we
checklist.
will take the entrance onto runway 16
Engine
over
mode
here.
selector.
Check normal.
Now the rain has stopped.
TCAS.
Okay, there seems to be no traffic coming in
tilt
to
above.
land on 16, so
Exterior
we can
lights.
go straight ahead on the runway.
Set on.
Sliding tables.
Stowed.
Stowed. Checklist complete.
Now we can hear the seat adjusting. That's also realistic, I guess. Okay, and I will quickly hold short here and let's have a look if runway 16, sorry, not 16, 25 I believe it was, is vacated. But I can't see any traffic lights down there, so we should be fine. And yeah, let's do it. Let's go for Miami and let's go for some nice weather, hopefully. So advancing the throttles to about 50%. Going to flex mode.
Takeoff. Man, flex, SRS and runway.
Check.
And let's try to get some outside views as well during this takeoff roll. But also I want to manage to stay on the center line. Now we can see the wing tips coming up a little bit.
V1. Rotate.
And rotating. Well, that was a slow rotation. And now we are at 1.
Gear up.
Gear up.
That didn't
Navigation.
feel
Check.
as if the
Exterior lights.
takeoff trim was set correctly actually, so I think they will have to go back to that and revisit the programming of the takeoff trim. Okay, so 2000 feet, we can start the left-hand turn right away. So we can see the wing flex a bit, so that's really a very good wing flex. And I want to make sure to stay rather slow on that turn. Now we're going back to climb
thrust.
power. So I want to do this climb with the flaps extended, and then once we are leveling out, then we can speed up and allow the flaps to retract. I think that's more appropriate for that kind of departure. Now we are heading to the clouds. And luckily it's not too shaky. There we can see the airport. Very nice departure route actually. Okay, we're not having a lot of vertical speed at that point in time since we are banking and also the aircraft is quite heavy. Okay, but now we can level out the wings and I will allow the aircraft to speed up now. Well, we can see the airport down there.
Flaps 0.
Speed check. Flaps 0.
And then the
after
210
takeoff
knot
checklist.
restriction, that should also go away after the next
Engine mode
waypoint.
selector.
Yeah, there we are.
normal.
Spoiler.
Still manually flying. So this aircraft is
Disarm.
actually quite easy to fly manually due
Flaps.
to the fly-by-wire
retracted.
system. It's really easy to fly manual.
Gear up, lights off.
Exterior lights.
Checked.
Packs.
Both on.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Yeah, now we are leaving the airport of Zurich behind.
1, 0, 2, 4. Check. Checklist complete.
And I will put the autopilot on now. Seems like there is some traffic just below us. That's of course a bit worrying. But okay. Also, I should have put the terrain on here, since it is quite interesting here at Zurich. Although we are now heading away from the Alps and not towards
Transition
them,
altitude.
so we don't have to worry about it too
Arrow
much.
reference set and cross-check.
Check.
Okay, now we are on a very stable climb here, 2,400 roughly, 2.5. And let's see when we actually meet the top of those clouds. And yeah, we need to put some anti-ice on actually. Should have done that earlier. Wing and engines. We had the warning on here that there is some icing. Weirdly, there's no weather on the radar, which kind of bothers me since it really should be there. Maybe it's aiming too high at this point, so it's not capturing the weather anymore. And now we got some sunlight on the wing, and you can see the PBR effects, very neat. Now we are
Lights
hitting
off.
10,000 feet.
Off.
And once we are past that cloud, I will turn the anti-ices off again. Now we got some rain here, but there's no cloud above us, so yeah, I don't know. I feel like the weather engine is not doing its best job with that kind of weather. I'm just seeing the first officer side altimeters are not synced, so I should put this to standard. But I like the cloud textures actually, so I've messed around with the Active Sky cloud art setting a bit, and now we got some different cloud textures in the sim. And this looks rather nice, I have to say. Okay, now we got a bit of weather on the radar. Also the shape is rather weird. Okay, let's get rid of the clouds and also complete the last on the next right hand turn, and then we will switch into music and view mode. Yeah, now we are leaving the snowy Switzerland. Now we are heading into the right hand turn. I'm not too happy with the shadow quality here on the engine, but I think that's some general P3D setting. I will need to go into the config file and see what's causing that. And now actually see fuel on board. Yeah, I've been noticing that on some earlier flights. Once we have departed, the estimated fuel on board figure is very messed up and it's not accurate at all. But once we get down on our destination, so once we are in Miami, we can see that the fuel on board will be pretty close to what it's been calculated earlier. So don't worry about these numbers right now. There seems to be still a small bug in there. Okay, now we've completed the turn. I hope you have enjoyed the departure so far. The first one in the A330. And now we'll switch into view and music mode, and then I will get back to you once we get closer to Miami. Hello viewers, welcome back to the flight deck. We are now about 10.5 hours into the flight, so 10 hours and 37 minutes to be exact, and we have just passed the transition level of 18,000 feet. So now the altimeters are set to local QNH, which is 3002, and we are currently on the Highley 7 RNAV arrival route, and we are just reaching 16,000 feet, which was our goal for waypoint Milsey, and now I will need to dial it down further in order to have the aircraft continue on its descent path, and I will actually set it to 3,000, which will be our next constraint. And yeah, so we can see the coastline of Florida coming up ahead. Weather is quite nice, a few clouds around, but not too bad. And we will be in for a landing on runway 09, so winds are from the west, and we will quickly talk about the approach. So as already mentioned, Highley 7 RNAV arrival. We entered the star at waypoint Joray, and we now just passed waypoint Milsey, and there it reads landing east, expect 280 knots, which we are, and 16,000 feet, so that was spot on there. And now we will continue on the arrival route until we go to waypoint Ruboe, and after Ruboe we will sort of vectors ourselves on a left-hand turn, and then onto an ILS runway 09 arrival, which is the southern runway of Miami International Airport. And there we will be at altitude 3,000 feet at waypoint Grid, and then at 1,500 until Ines, and then just slightly before Ines we will reach the glide slope, and then it is a straight in arrival. In case of missed approach, we will climb to 800 feet, then take a right-hand turn direct to waypoint, or VOR rather, Virginia Keys, and they will be at 3,000 feet. So pretty straightforward, and once we've touched down on runway 09, the taxi should be rather short. The international gates are just just next to the exit of the runway, so that should be a short taxi today. And yeah, other than that, I have back in Zurich I've talked a little bit about the fuel planning. So now as we get much closer to Miami, the estimated fuel on board sort of aligns to a more realistic value. So now it reads 5.9. We currently have 6.9 on board, so let's see if that actually matches reality. And yeah, I think Airbus, they will need to go back to that and sort of adjust the calculation of the estimated fuel on board, since during most time of the cruise that was rather messed up, this number. Our cruise level was flight level 400 in the end, so we had quite a high altitude. And in terms of wind, this was pretty much as expected. So simply, if I remember correctly, they calculated a flight time of 10 hours and 50 minutes or something like that, so we are pretty spot on that flight time. Okay, we still got the co-pilot function activated, so they have dialed the Q&H already. Now they are probably waiting for 10,000 feet. We can see that the descent checklist is active right now. And oh yeah, I forgot for the landing. So decision height today will be radial altimeters of 200 feet. So the standard value there. I've also set up the range rings on the navigation display, so 4 miles and 10 miles. And I've been searching a bit how to do it, since when we go into the final waypoint, so Miami 09, then there is no fix option here where you could enter it, so you need to go to the previous one, or any one really, and then go to fix, and then we can manually enter Miami 09 and adjust the radials. So here's radial 10, the radius, of course, the distance 10 miles is here, and on the next page it's 4 miles. So that's where I've entered it. In terms of landing, so here we can see the overview. Actually, let's double check the weather, if this is still the most accurate weather we have available. Okay, now winds are 120 at 13, so I will slightly adjust that. 120 at 13. We could have also gone for an ILS 12 landing, runway 12, which would be straight into the wind, but 09 is also fine. Temperatures of 27, altimeter of 3002, that's still correct. And yeah, it's dry, that's good. I will get rid of the menu bar, and we will have a full config landing, and I've actually added 10 knots on the final landing speed, since we have above 10 knots of wind, and thus it might be kind of handy to have more than 5 knots on the final approach speed, just to be on the safe side here. And also what I've noticed during the descent, the aircraft is from time to time rather heavily pitching up and down, so I believe there's still a bit of a update needed to make the descent path smoother than it is right now, but I'm sure that can be fixed in the future. Okay, once we are reaching 10,000 feet, I will try to set up GSX for parking, which is Juliet 11 Alpha, if that's available today. That was the gate the real world flight parked at, so we will also try to set up for that one. We can zoom in a little bit here. So I have the weather on my side and the terrain on the first officer side. That is also an improvement over the small Airbuses. Now we can actually set them up differently in the narrow body Airbuses from Aerosoft. They were both handled simultaneously, which was kind of annoying, to be honest. So now we got weather over here, terrain over there, although terrain in Florida, yeah, not super exciting, I have to admit, but it's always good to have two different displays here. I'm also seeing this one is still not aligned, so I should 30, I will dial that manually, 3002, there we go, and also this one, 3002, there we go, okay. Okay, now frames are coming down a little bit, but that's probably due to the weather. We have quite some clouds around here. Let's see the other side, yeah, same here. Quite cloudy, but I like the cloud textures. Okay, so we're below 10,000, the landing lights are on, and now I will try to set up our gate. So Miami is here. And then we will search for Juliet, and then we will see if they have 11 Alpha. No, that's only just 11. Okay, so we will go for Juliet 11, and then we will see how to handle it once we got there. I don't think American is handling Swiss. Let's go for Alliance ground. That should be fine. Okay, now we should be next to the airport actually. I'm not sure if we can see it down there somewhere. We can see that this is all photoreal ground textures, which comes with the scenery. Yeah, there we can see the airport of Miami. We have had this airport before in the channel when we flew from Miami to San Francisco, and it is still the LatinVFR Miami version 5 scenery, which is a great scenery, highly detailed, so very enjoyable to fly, but also quite heavy on the frames. But yeah, that's just what we have to handle. Okay, so now we are heading towards Ruboi, and we want to be at 3000 at grid, so I will make sure the aircraft gets there in time. So I will use the vertical speed to adjust a little bit. And as it looks, there are two more aircraft coming into land. Oh no, this one is climbing. So this one is coming into land, but looks like runway 08 arrival. Once we are past that one, we can probably turn left and meet grid. Now it's actually above us. I'm not sure where this one is going. I'm not sure which direction it's heading into. Is it actually heading the same direction as we are? Because we're not getting much closer to it. Traffic. And it should be close now, yeah. Okay, we're currently about 1,000 feet below it, so see it anywhere. Ah, there it is.
Captain, a speed limit of 250 knots.
Okay, apparently we are speeding here.
Traffic, traffic, traffic.
Okay, but I believe now we can go direct waypoint grid.
Captain, we have a speed limit of 250 knots.
And then the aircraft will adjust as it needs.
2000.
Now power is coming up, which is rather weird. It should be slowing down now.
High speed, Captain.
Speed brakes.
That's weird. That seems to be also a bit of a bug here, since the auto throttle is going crazy. I will briefly disconnect and make sure the aircraft slows down. Okay, and get back to the climb detent. That's a bit shaky here. And that's a good opportunity to see the nice wing flex on the A330. And I'm not sure why we have
a speed limit
just
of
lost
250
the lights on the autopilot, if that's actually
Approach checklist.
on purpose, or if that's a bug in there. I'm not quite sure.
Checked.
Sliding tables.
Stowed.
And still we are being too fast, so I will once again get rid of the auto throttle
Checked.
Nav accuracy.
Checked.
and go to idle mode.
Checked.
We are way too fast.
3002.
3002.
And I will arm approach mode, since the glide slope is slowly coming in.
Set on.
And I will also put the speed brakes out now,
Localizer captured.
since we are still super fast.
Flight attendants, prepare for landing.
I'm not sure if I did something wrong in the setup of the approach, or if that was just a bit of a bug here. Okay, to 20 knots, that's fine. Speed brakes are retracted. And I will once more try to set the auto
Flaps
throttle.
Speed check. Flaps 1. Glide slope captured.
Okay, flaps 1, that's good. So at least we are having the flaps out now. Still very shaky here. Not a very pleasant approach for the packs. Yeah, but yeah, I'm very unhappy with the auto throttle here. You can see that it's coming up all the time, not working properly. So I will do it manually now. I actually need the speed brakes again.
Flaps 2.
Speed check. Flaps 2.
Gear down.
Gear down.
Now we can watch the gear come down. And now we have reached a rather, or a more stable flight. It was a bit hectic just now, and I kind of like to blame a bug in the aircraft systems for that sort of high-speed approach.
Flaps full.
But of course we can never be sure. Maybe there was something wrong in the setup of the approach. Now I just have to make sure to manually
Landing
meet
checklist.
the 140 knots.
Landing gear.
Down and locked. 3 greens.
Ground spoilers.
You know, this scenery is
Checked
taking a
and on.
long time to load in. But now we got it.
Medium.
Of course it's a heavy scenery in a big city. I
Exterior
mean, it's loading
lights.
the buildings all the way back to Miami Beach
On.
there, so that's a lot of buildings to load in.
Go around altitude.
Checked.
1,000.
Landing memo.
Checked. No blue.
Checklist complete.
Okay, I will disconnect the autopilot, so it's my aircraft.
Autopilot off.
Now I want to make it a good landing at least, which is always a little bit tricky when the frames have come down. It's much easier when we have a smooth running simulator. But my graphics card is not exactly a beast, so
400.
I just have to deal with what it is for now.
Route 300.
So we are a bit low on the glide slope
Minimum
here,
200.
but we are quite good on the speed now.
Continue.
And we got a long runway available, so that should be fine.
100. 50. 40. 30. Retard. 10. 5.
Okay, here we are. We'll
Ground spoilers.
go idle reverse. A little bit more rather. Okay, idle forward, release the auto brakes. And yeah, welcome to Miami. At least that was a soft landing. I was quite happy with that one. And now we'll try to go a bit further, since we anyway have to go quite a way back on the runway. But now we can leave the next one, which will be Tango 8. Some leg spikes in here. That's a bit annoying. Okay, and now the co-pilot should go ahead with the cleanup and the after landing checklist, and that comes in very handy, since this is always the busiest time to do that kind of stuff.
Check normal.
I will quickly hold here and have a look outside if there's no traffic on the runway, but that looks fine. And now, as the aircraft got much lighter, we can actually taxi with idle power.
Wind shear.
And we will go right here.
Both off.
Checklist complete.
Yeah, so this is actually one of those sceneries which is a bit too heavy for my rig. But I might upgrade it probably soon with a new graphics card, which is really needed here. Okay, and now I'm actually not sure if incoming traffic is going right or left. We will go right. And that should be fine. And it's not a far taxi to the stand, so it's not too bad. I also want to get rid of the flight director here. So our flight time in the end was 10 hours and 58 minutes, so almost 11 hours. Quite a long flight for the A330 actually. This is pretty much the longest it could go on a good payload. Let's call it that. We actually need to go left here if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, we have. Almost missed it, sorry. Yeah, so 11 hours. It's actually not the longest flight Swiss operates with this aircraft. They are also flying from Zurich to Shanghai and back, and that's probably a little bit longer, maybe 11 and a half, or maybe not quite, 11 hours probably. So yeah, even a little bit longer than that one. So yeah, it can actually, this aircraft can actually go on rather long flights, but not much longer than that. Okay, so there's Juliet 11, the dashed line, that's Juliet 11 Alpha. I know that the real world parked on the Juliet 11 Alpha, but I'm afraid if I do that, then GSX is totally calling it the day. Or maybe let's have a quick look. Oh, you know what? Let's actually go on Juliet 11 Alpha. If that's not working, then we have tried our best to be most realistic here. But the jetway is actually in a place where I believe it might work. Okay, I'm not quite sure where to hold. I will just use the very last marking down there. That should be about fine. Which is this one. Okay, and here we are. I will set the parking brake and kill the engines. And yeah, here we got the
parking checklist.
load sheet, or rather the arrival sheet. I'm not sure what it's called actually.
Parking brake and chocks.
So we've used about 59
Chocks
tons
are
of
set.
fuel, remaining fuel 6.1, so
released.
that's actually pretty much in line with what we calculated.
Both off.
And vertical speed, yeah, that's 194 feet. So yeah,
Set.
that's an okayish landing, I would say, not too bad.
Exterior lights.
Okay, and now we are a little bit skewed here. We have also put our wing into the jetway, so tremendous job there. Let's ask for deboarding. Okay, other than that, we can go to the ground services and set the traffic cones and the external power, and then we can connect the external power here and kill the APU. And that would be the turnaround state for the returning flight. And now there are not even stairs coming in, just the baggage trucks. Okay. Well, with that, sorry about GSX having a bit of an issue with my parking here. And that's fair enough, to be honest. Nevertheless, I hope you have enjoyed the first A330 flight. I'm planning to do a lot more of those in the future. It's a very good aircraft to fly. I'm looking forward to any new updates that Aerosoft is releasing for this aircraft. And other than that, I hope you've enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and like in case you want to see more. That's the easiest way for you to support me. And thanks for tuning in.